Hi, folks. Now, it's no surprise that Democrats are once again treating reality like anything they get invited to. They show up late, they bring nothing, and they still complain about everything. Now, today, we're going to be talking about Trump's latest Thanksgiving proclamation. But before we get to that, we've got a liberal white woman doing verbal gymnastics so intense she should qualify for the Olympic trials, all to defend trans people using fake IDs, and she somehow manages to faceplant faster than a CNN fact checker.
Now most trans people cannot go internationally anywhere where they don't appear as like an M on their passport.
So?
And that's just that's dangerous for trans people. If you want to do, I'm running into this with a friend right now who tries to do war correspondence in countries that don't like trans people.
So you're asking the U.S. government to produce a false document to lie to a foreign government.
So you're saying that it was a false document before, that the government was just lying this entire time?
If you're a man and they put female on your passport, they're lying.
Yeah. Well, if you put gender and put woman, isn't that fine?
There's no W. It's male or female. Those are sexes. It's biology.
Exactly.
Sure, but couldn't we just update the passport to be gender?
No.
No.
Why not?
Because we're identifying a biological structure of human beings for a purpose, because different laws...
On the passport?
Indeed. It's an ID.
Now, there's a very simple explanation that we can tack on to what Tim Pool just said that further eviscerates this woman's logic. And it's grounded on basic reality. Now, let's just say the so-called war correspondent is out in a foreign country. Something tragic happens, as it does in war, and they end up in the hospital. Doctors look at the ID and see female, so they begin treatment protocols for a woman. And then those doctors realize the patient has a penis. What do you think is going to happen? That's just one scenario, but it captures the entire point. The U.S. government should be designating this kind of stuff according to biology, because passports and IDs have always been based on biological reality and not ideology. You don't swap out objective information just because Democrats insist everyone else must bend to their worldview. And look, folks, trans-identifying people make roughly 0.5% of the population. Do we really want to overhaul society for 99.5% of people because 0.5% want documentation that matches their self-perception instead of their body? That's literally the tyranny of the minority. It's an attempt to create a false reality, and it's annoying that we're still entertaining these sorts of arguments that are absolutely detached from anything concrete, especially when the data shows that medical transitioning doesn't magically resolve the depression, anxiety, or mental health issues driving this sort of dysphoria in the first place. And the number of detransitioners, people who go through the full process and then reverse course, is rising precisely because it didn't solve their underlying issues. What this woman is really asking for is state-sanctioned falsification. And it's a perfect snapshot of today's America: ideology overriding institutions, feelings replacing facts, and Democrats demanding everyone live inside a constructed reality that collapses the second biology walks into the room. And since we're on the topic of delusion, New York's recently elected Trojan horse mayor, Zohran Mamdani, is going around and doing interviews and praising himself for the embarrassment he withstood during the press conference with Trump.
Can I ask you a question? Like, how did you not laugh
when the 135?
How did you keep the face during the press conference? Because we were all dying, and I'm like, my boy Zoran was like just straight face. He said, "Just tell him yes." Yeah. How did you keep that face?
Honestly, I was just thinking about New York City.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
shut up.
I was trying to think about the difference between if you have a White House that is working towards an affordability agenda or one that's making it harder to live in the city.
Yeah.
That's kind of what kept...
Did you expect him to like you as much as he did?
I was trying to prepare for a lot of different situations.
I know. It's like when you're on that plane taking that selfie, I mean, that could have gone in any direction. I mean, like, did that feel best case scenario, or like, were you like...
I mean, it honestly felt like the most productive meeting we could have had.
Yeah.
I mean, a meeting where we talked about ULERP, we talked about, groceries, Con Ed, rent, childcare. That feels like the best meeting you could have.
This guy is so unbelievably cucked, and he's out here talking like he's the big tough guy who marched into the White House and took care of business. When we all saw what actually happened, he was trying his absolute best to hold on to his balls and not get castrated on live TV, and he knows this. He's on this man's turf, trying to act like everything went according to his plan, when in reality, Trump had mercy on him. And the reason Trump did is simple. He's trying to make Zoran the face of the Democrat Party. That's why he treated him nicely, why he gave him the opportunity to say the word fascist to his face, and Zoran completely cowered out of it. Now he's going around rewriting history like he showed up with swagger and conviction when everyone watched him shrink. But honestly, this is good. This is actually perfect. Make Zoran the face of the Democrat Party. Let Democrats own every single failure tied to him. Because he is a first-time mayor who suddenly has real responsibility after a career of being a state assemblyman who mostly complained, virtue signaled, and yelled at Tom Homan for clips and applause. And this is where the cultural moment comes in, folks. The Democrats keep elevating people who can talk about affordability, groceries, rent, childcare, but can't actually deliver. They mistake vibes for governance, and rewriting an awkward meeting into the most productive one possible is just another example of how political storytelling has replaced competence. And look, I love New York, but you guys get what you vote for, okay? When you listen to Cynthia Nixon, you eventually end up with an Islamic Republic.
تا وقتی که انشاءالله این کاخ سفید را حسینیه نکنیم فریادمون همین است که مرگ بر آمریکا.
And in case you thought I was exaggerating, that clip is literally happening in America. An auditorium full of people chanting death to America and openly declaring that the White House should become a Shiite Islamic center. And let's be clear, folks, that rhetoric is not harmless. Those are extremist voices importing the same ideology that fuels sectarian violence overseas, and it's the exact environment that produced someone like Ramunallah Lakhanwal yelling Allahu Akbar before shooting 2 National Guard members at the White House. These people aren't fooling around, folks. Extremists want you gone. They want America weakened, and they want a vacuum where their ideology can thrive. And this is where Democrats come in, because while Democrats don't want you dead, their policies do create the conditions where these movements grow. When you hollow out the nation culturally, when you transition kids, when you push gender politics to emasculate a generation of men, when you chip away at social cohesion, you weaken the very backbone needed to resist the rise of harder authoritarian ideologies behind it. That's the pattern throughout history, folks. Wokeness softens a society, dissolves law, dissolves identity, dissolves confidence, and then something far more rigid, far more controlling, far less tolerant creeps in behind it. Every civilization gravitates toward a theological or moral framework. Christianity built the freest and most prosperous societies in the history of humanity. Islamic extremist has historically produced the most restrictive and punitive conditions ever, especially on issues like apostasy and individual liberty. And if America continues down this path of cultural self-disintegration, you're about to experience what fills the void.
You want to blame all Afghans for this crime? Okay, using your logic, deport all white men. Sorry, white men are the problem. Number 1 mass shooters, white men. Sorry, your rules. Now it's on you.
Now, I think it goes without saying, folks, that an MSDNC commentator saying with a straight face that if Americans are concerned about an Afghan migrant committing violence, then the country should deport all white men is thoroughly disingenuous. Because the argument is designed to shut down legitimate concerns by smearing an entire demographic. He's comparing Americans whose families built this country over centuries to a recent evacuee from the chaotic Afghanistan pullout who was brought here with minimal vetting and within a few years shouted a jihadist slogan and opened fire on National Guard personnel. These two situations are not remotely equivalent, and pretending they are is political theater meant to delegitimize the public's instinct to protect its own security and stability. When commentators push rhetoric like this, they're signaling that disorder is preferable to admitting that our immigration and vetting systems are overwhelmed. And this isn't coming out of nowhere. America is socially and financially strained. People are watching Europe struggle with similar issues, and they don't want the United States to follow this same trajectory. That's the core of today's anxiety around immigration. People want to hold on to cultural cohesion and stability that made America work in the first place. So when someone like Ali, himself the child of immigrants, turns around and suggests that long-established Americans should be deported, it reveals an ideological movement that sees the country's historic population as disposable, while extending limitless benefit of the doubt to newcomers, even when the system fails to filter out dangerous actors. That's not inclusion. That's eroding the very foundations that allowed previous generations of immigrants to succeed here, and replacing the citizens who built the nation with people who barely arrived and are already involved in violence is unacceptable in any functioning society. Now, all that being said, on Thanksgiving Day, Trump published a statement in response to the assassination of a National Guardswoman and the shooting of a second guardsman by an Afghan national, an attack that never should have been possible in the first place. And the statement finally addressed the long-ignored crisis created by the Biden administration's unfettered, unvetted, reckless approach to immigration. This is a response Trump should have put out a long time ago, and frankly, something he should have started acting on at the beginning of this year, but better late than never. I'm grateful he finally released this, and I genuinely hope there's real action that follows these words. Now, without further ado, here's Trump's full statement. A very happy Thanksgiving salutation to all of our great American citizens and patriots who have been so nice in allowing our country to be divided, disrupted, carved up, murdered, beaten, mugged, and laughed at, along with certain other foolish countries throughout the world for being politically correct and just plain stupid when it comes to immigration. The official United States foreign population stands at 53 million, according to the census, most of which are on welfare from failed nations or from prisons, mental institutions, gangs, or drug cartels. They and their children are supported through massive payments from patriotic American citizens who, because of their beautiful hearts, do not want to openly complain or cause trouble in any way, shape, or form. They put up with what has happened to our country, but it's eating them alive to do so. A migrant earning $30,000 with a green card will get roughly $50,000 in yearly benefits for their family. The real migrant population is in fact much higher. This refugee burden is the leading cause of social dysfunction in America, something that did not exist after World War II. Failed schools, high crime, urban decay, overcrowded hospitals, housing shortages, and large deficits, etc. As an example, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. Somalian gangs are roving the streets looking for prey, as our wonderful people stay locked in their apartments and houses, hoping against hope that they will be left alone. The seriously retarded governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both, while the worst woman in our country, Ilhan Omar, always wrapped in her swaddling hijab and who probably came into the United States illegally in that you are not allowed to marry your brother, does nothing but hatefully complain about our country, its constitution, and how badly she is treated, when her place of origin is a decadent, backward, and crime-ridden nation, which is essentially not even a country for lack of government, military, police, schools, etc. Even as we have progressed technologically, immigration policy has eroded those gains and living conditions for many. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the United States system to fully recover. Terminate all of the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe's auto pen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country, and all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal auto pen approval process. Only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all, except those that hate, steal, murder, and destroy everything that America stands for. You won't be here for long. Now, needless to say, Trump's statement is perfect. I wish he had said it months ago, and honestly, I wish he had started acting on this months ago as well, because America is facing a real crisis right now, folks. When you see groups inside this country openly chanting things that call for America's downfall, like death to America, these are groups driven by extremist ideology that despises what this country stands for. It should be the biggest wake-up call we've ever heard when we see things like this. We cannot pretend that this stuff is harmless. We can't pretend that importing people from regions dominated by anti-Western ideology carries zero risk. And we definitely cannot pretend that weakening our own cultural foundations will somehow make our country stronger. Look, I was born in America. I grew up abroad. I saw firsthand what broken countries look like. I have family in Europe, and Europe is collapsing under the exact same pressures we are now choosing to import into America. What many Americans seem to have forgotten is that America is different. America is uniquely blessed by God, folks. We have freedoms and opportunities that the rest of the world only dreams of. Why would we willingly destroy any of that? And that old saying rings true for a reason. When you import the third world, you become the third world. Your country starts drifting toward third world outcomes. See, compassion is good. Christian mercy is good. But there are 8 billion people on earth, and we cannot destroy the greatest nation ever built in an attempt to save every single one of them. We already have 2,500 people dying in the streets of LA every year. We already have 50,000 homeless people in Los Angeles alone. We already have families fleeing this state because they can't afford to survive here. The mental health crisis is exploding with young people. The fentanyl crisis is taking them out. The abortion crisis is wiping out an entire generation of children. And we're supposed to keep adding more pressure to this? No. We have to take care of Americans first. If America collapses, there is no light left for anyone else. America has always been a beacon for the world, but a beacon only shines if the fire at the center is kept alive. If we want to help the world, then America has to be strong, stable, and protected. America has to be good first. America has to always come first. Otherwise, we lose everything, and we don't save anybody in the process. Anyway, you tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.